kind of interesting thing on rotation is there's rotation high, okay, that's through the bicep root, and the thumb, okay? That's like high rotation, that's like rotation for all outside techniques. All your top rolls, you know, you're gonna pivot through your thumb, okay? That's kind of the perfect place to spin off. But inside rotation is different, right? So whatever, that'll be fine. When you're hooking, right? When you're hooking, and you're either pressing or any kind of deep hook where your bicep is not involved, because that's, you know, like we were covering earlier, your bicep is not involved in most deeper style of hooks. There's still rotation, but it's no longer through your thumb. It's through the bottom of your hand, right? This twist downwards, right? There's rotation involved in that, right? A downwards twist. And it's tied together by your ability to sink, right? So, like, whatever. You want to light me up there? Just give me nothing. Good. Okay, so, like when I'm doing rotation, right? So much of it, this is like kind of your minimum. If you can't do this, you shouldn't be working it with it, really with rotation. But, so from here, you're going to twist inwards. Okay, so you're in a hook, and then you're going to twist down. Okay? All right? Because when you're in the hook, right, once we settle in, you know, so much of the hook is this downwards twist, right?
Yeah.
Right? And that's rotation, but it's a low rotation. Yeah, I mean, I love to train rotation. Rotation and cup. They're huge. They're huge strengths. But I go through periods, you know, like I'll get focused in on a piece, and I'll work it and work it and work it, and I'll get great gains, I'll get good results, and then there'll come a point when I'll have done too much, and my gains will diminish, and I might even start to get, like, you know, I don't want to say injured, but I will have done a bit too much, you know, so then I'll switch around. And I generally cycle between, you know, the big ones. You know, you can never go wrong with working your cup, rotation, rise. And then after that, you know, those are the big three. Those are the ones that are all like, they're like, that right there is 85% arm wrestling. You know, then I'll start to do things like my sink, okay? Or just that press piece, okay? I'll work that a lot. That's a good one. My supination piece, okay? Work a lot of supination. Reverse, just to bring balance to the forearm.
Yeah.
So many injuries in arm wrestling happen just because we do too much of the same thing. You know, the body's designed to do everything, and when you love only one thing, your body gets all out of balance, right?
Yeah.
Like, your body needs balance, right? You get too tight, you get too spiraled inwards, everything's internal, twisting in, cupping in, you know. But
You're a lot stronger this way than you are that way.
Of course you are. Yeah, and you always will be.
Yeah.
But it's important to bring it back that way, just so this can function better.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, so working balance is a part of it. Yeah. Talk a little bit about injuries. Okay, and there's a lot of different ideas about injuries and arm wrestling. You're gonna get injuries wherever it is. It's part of any sport. Any sport you do to a high level, you're gonna get injuries. Tendonitis, whatever, that's a common one. And when I say injuries, I'm not talking about breaking your arm or, you know, something that requires surgery. You know, I'm not talking about where you actually, you know, ruptured your tendon or blew a tendon off a bone or, like, you know, blew a ligament completely. I'm talking about, you know, basically being something past sore. You know, something that takes, like, you know, 5 or 6 weeks. Like, you know, I hurt myself in a match. There's nothing obvious, nothing went purple, you know, nothing's like visibly torn or broken, but it's something bad happened, you know. And for me, that doesn't keep me off the table. That does not keep me outside the gym. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I've got this injury, and I just want to let it heal." To me, is the worst thing you can do. To me, what I think is, you never want to stop getting into the gym. You never want to stop going to the club and training. Reasons why, okay? The big reason for why you don't want to stop going to the club is you will become a better arm wrestler training through injury. The big thing is you need to let your guys know that you're injured, Okay, the club, you have to have a great club environment. You need to have dudes who you can talk to and you say, hey man, I'm hurt real bad in this spot. I'll show you exactly where I'm hurt. You got to take care of me. And hopefully your guys are cool enough that they will do that. And what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to diversify. I believe you become a great arm wrestler through injury. In 1998, I was a relatively new arm wrestler. I was an arm wrestler who had really just found that really, really strong spot known as the press. You know what I mean? I'd been arm wrestling competitively for, about 5 years, and if the match stopped, I knew if I turned like this, there was a whole lot of pressure coming. And I'd been thinking about this guy, Earl Wilson. He's a great Canadian arm wrestler. I was thinking about him. I'm like, I'm going to beat this guy. I'm going to beat this guy at the Mike Hugh Classic. And I did beat him. We hit in. I'd planned the match. I'd arm wrestled him 1,000 times in my mind before I had stepped up to the table that day. And I hit out, and I came inside, and I committed. And I buried him. I buried his arm. But Earl Wilson is a gorilla. And in the process of me burying his arm, he seriously stretched out some stuff in there. Like I was done for the rest of the tournament, basically. I got my win, and there was no sound, and nothing broke, but something got stretched to a point where if I took my finger and touched here, it was ridiculous pain. Like, it was not happening. Like, there was no supination ability. There was no side pressure in my game. Nothing. Because when I hit my press, right, instead of being here and being all in line, I was probably about here. And I just forced that thing in there, It was great, but, in that process, I got an injury. So what I did was I just kept on training. I kept on pulling. And what I did was for 1.5 years, I top rolled. And I only top. And at that point, I really didn't know how to top roll very well. Outside pulling, because that's all I could do. That's all I was able to do. And if I had not received that injury, who knows, maybe I wouldn't have top rolled for several years after that. Anyways, the injury came back. 1.5 years later, my hook came back, and my side pressure was great, and there was no issues. But over the course of that period, I've added a huge, balance piece to my game. And every time I've gotten injured, I've still arm wrestled. After my surgery, I was on the table. I think it was 3 days after. Actually, it was the next day. I was on the table arm wrestling. But I told my guys, I'm like, listen, like you can't do anything to me. Like, I just had surgery. Like, all I want you to do is just touch my hand. And I'm like, it's all I can do right now. That's all I can do. Just hold hands with me. And, but I knew that doing nothing was not the right choice. Golden rule of arm wrestling: don't ever stop. Don't stop, and don't get injured. Those two things. I've failed, but I'm keeping on working at it. So, and through that process, they were cool with me. Nobody hurt me anymore, and they let me kind of slowly work back into it. If I had just said I'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks, or 2 months or 3 months or whatever, all that stuff that I in between there wouldn't have happened. There's always something you can do. Anyways, that's kind of how I feel about injuries and pulling.